I like this show on TV called Alone. If maybe some of you have heard it. It says probably a lot about me because they take 10 people and they just drop them out in the middle of nowhere. It's usually out in Canada where it's really cold and everything wants to kill you. And the last person that survives out of these 10 gets $500,000, which is super ironic because it's all these off-the-grid people, and they're like, I don't need anything. And then the whole time they talk about the money, like the entire time. Anyway, 9 of them die, 1 lives, and so that last one, just kidding, they have a radio, they can tap out at any time. Most are done in 20 days. Most. And I've seen one guy, I've seen every episode. We're on like the 10th season. And I've seen every episode. One guy left within 24 hours. He's like, nope, I'm done. I can't do this, which was hilarious. So last season, there was this guy by the name of Juan Pablo. That's not his real name. I just really like the name. Juan Pablo comes along. I gave him a nickname. He did everything different than everyone before. And it blew my mind because I've seen every episode. So what they do, they always go out and they put up their tarp. You can bring 10 items with you and there's all these rules. So you have like a tarp, a bow and arrow, an axe, and 6 other things. And so you're out there and they set the tarp up. That's their home for like 2 weeks. Then they start a fire. And I've seen a lot of people leave because they had trouble with their fire. One guy lit his whole place on fire. And he's like, I'm out of here. Most are dying of like smoke and whatever that's called. And so it's just so ridiculous. Then they catch fish, but the rivers eventually freeze over. They put out traps for rabbits. They have bow and arrow for chipmunks. It's the same story. And then they build a long-term cabin, and they try and survive, and they starve to death, and then they're out of there. Juan Pablo was completely different, blew my mind. He gets out there and just starts drinking the water straight. You're supposed to boil water. Like I bet all of you know, you don't drink from the river or lakes. It can cause a lot of problems. This guy's just lapping it up. He's out there lapping it up, and he says, I have been training for 2 years. I've been going everywhere and just drinking whatever, wherever, to train my body for this moment. And on the show, they have all these warnings popping up. You could die if you do this. Do not do this. He's doing it. Then he doesn't light a fire. Everyone else is fighting the cold. He goes, I want my body to get colder and colder and colder so that I can last longer. He's the opposite. He had all these like rewards. If I make it to 10 days, I get a berry. If I make it to 20 days, on the 70th day, his reward was he could light his first fire. Then he goes, I'm fasting. Now, everyone on the show is fasting. It's called I Can't Find a Bunny fasting. He purposely goes, I want to shrink my stomach down to when I get that first chipmunk, I won't need very much to sustain me. And I'm watching this show and my mind is being blown. And he won, of course he won. He easily won. Everyone else quit. He could have gone, I think, just the whole winter. But at day 78, everyone else had quit. And so he won. And I was floored. I'd never seen anything like it. And here's what struck me. And it does fit. It does have something to do with the sermon today. It reminded me of the question we're asking. What would happen in our life if God began to define who we are? What would change? What could we be in the world? How could we live differently? See, Juan Pablo kept saying, we're all just a little too comfortable. He goes, our bodies, if we push to uncomfortable stages, we will adapt and survive. We quit up here far, far sooner than down in our bodies. And I was bouncing off the walls. I grabbed my kids. I go, you got to watch this. I have my wife in there, and my wife got totally mad at me. She's like, yeah, I'm sure this guy doesn't have some debilitating disease. There's so many things he's doing that could get him killed. Don't try this at home. But still, having said that, we have such a desire for comfort that we get to verses like Luke 6, they don't make sense unless we stop thinking about what the world values. This non-stop pursuit for comfort. That's what it is. And we begin to move ourselves to, what does it mean to be a disciple? What if I started to let God define who I am, not based on the world's values and what the world looks like and all this other stuff? Now read Luke 6 differently.